Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hangout on Air hosted by Gateway House. And this time we're going to look at Brazilian perspectives of the Indian elections. And we have two people on our panel with us. We have Patricia Toledo de Campos Mello, who is editor-at-large at Folha de Sao Paulo, a newspaper in Brazil. And she's in India covering the Indian elections. And we also have Ambassador Viswanathan, who is a distinguished fellow with Gateway House, doing research specifically on Latin America. So let's start with a few questions for Patricia, and we're actually going to start with Portuguese. So, Patricia?
Yes?
O que as eleições da Índia significam para o Brasil?
Okay, should I answer in Portuguese or English?
In Portuguese, if you can, please.
Okay, of course. As eleições na Índia são muito importantes para o Brasil por alguns motivos. A Índia não estava no radar do governo brasileiro por muito tempo, mas agora com a aproximação do IBAS, que vocês chamam de IBSA, e o BRICS, começou a ter muita importância em relação à cooperação Sul-Sul. Em relação também a um deslocamento do centro de importância econômica para o Sul e para a China, Rússia, Índia e Brasil. Os brasileiros estão acompanhando mais de perto agora, né? Era um tema que não era muito acompanhado, mas agora está sendo acompanhado com bastante atenção.
Ok, great. E como os brasileiros veem as eleições da Índia?
E as pessoas estão muito interessadas. Bom, existe, obviamente, o ponto de vista comercial. Nós temos um intercâmbio comercial com a Índia que poderia ser muito maior e ainda é muito concentrado em... Nós exportamos muita matéria-prima, petróleo. Nós temos um acordo comercial de preferências tarifárias com a Índia que ainda é muito limitado. Isso está sendo sujeito à consulta pública no governo brasileiro atualmente para ver se amplia o número de linhas tarifárias que terão a preferência. Então, você tem esse ponto de vista comercial, econômico. Do outro ponto de vista, as pessoas estão muito interessadas em saber quem é Narendra Modi. Ele tem sido muito falado no exterior, foi capa da revista Economist. Existe uma curiosidade e uma vontade de saber se ele é realmente pro-business, que vai trazer desenvolvimento e ajudar bastante a Índia do ponto de vista econômico, mas também há preocupação com o fato dos massacres de Gujarat em 2002.
Great. Thank you very much, Patricia. Just one more question, and we'll do this in English, and then we'll move on to Ambassador Viswanathan.
Sure.
So, well, the Indian and Brazilian elections this year are expected to have different outcomes. So, in India's ongoing elections, the incumbent Congress party is almost surely to be voted out. But in Brazil, Dilma Rousseff's Workers' Party is expected to continue for another 4-year term. So, how are these outcomes likely to affect the India-Brazil bilateral relationship?
Well, I think we're gonna, you're right that it's very likely that Dilma Rousseff is gonna remain in power, even though the economy is decelerating in the last 2 years, just like in India. The effects have not yet been fully felt by the population because there's still full employment and the real wages are still growing, even though a little bit less. So you have not this kind of not rejection, that's not the word I'm looking for, but here there's a very big, people are not very happy about the current government because of the economy, and also corruption scandals and everything. In Brazil, I could say we have all those things as well. The economy is not doing as well, and we also do have corruption scandals, but for now, it's not yet having an effect that is big enough to vote Dilma Rousseff and her government out of office. So in terms of the relationship between the two countries, I think this year it's going to be very very complicated for foreign policy issues in Brazil because all the focus is either on the World Cup or on the presidential elections that happen in October. So I don't think many things are going to happen, except for the BRICS summit, which takes place in July in Fortaleza, the northeast of the country. That's going to be a big thing. It's going to be the first time the new prime minister, the Indian prime minister, is going to be there. So this is going to be a big deal, but I don't expect any further concrete measures this year, just because it's all about domestic issues and election and World Cup.
Okay, great. Thank you, Patricia. Ambassador, we'll move on to you with a question more specifically to Gujarat. You've written in your recent article that more than half of India's trade with Latin America goes through Gujarat, and the Chief Minister of Gujarat, who's BJP's prime ministerial candidate, and who's likely to come into power through the elections, he has met the Latin American ambassadors twice in the past year, and he has stressed on increasing engagement with Latin America. So, will the new government in New Delhi implement any specific measures to deepen the relationship with Latin America?
Firstly, I would like to stress that it was the NDA government in 1999 to 2003 which took a lot of unprecedented initiatives to focus on new markets and new regions like Latin America. They laid the foundation by signing PTA with Mercosur and framework agreements with Andean community and with SPICA. But while the UPA government had followed up and continued the interaction and added new elements, but because of other preoccupations, it could not, it didn't do as much as it could have done, particularly in the second term. So that is why this change of government with new prime minister from Gujarat, which does bulk of the trade with Latin America, and who has met Latin American ambassadors, so who's shown keenness to expand relations. I think it is going to be better for Indo-Latin American relations.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ambassador. Just one more question to follow up with that, actually. If Narendra Modi does get elected as the next Prime Minister of India, what would be his significance in the context of Brazil, but also IBSA, BRICS, and in general multipolarism?
Yes, Brazil profile was raised by Lula in an unprecedented way during his term. But the current president, Dilma, has lowered the profile of Brazil because she is not so much interested in foreign policy or enhancing the profile of Brazil or even her own global profile. Because of that, Brazil profile has become lower. So at this time, when you have an Indian Prime Minister who seeks a greater profile for India like Narendra Modi, he could inspire Dilma to be a little more ambitious. And he would also add more content to Indo-Brazilian relations, because we have a number of agreements between India and Brazil, but a lot of them got caught into bureaucratic hurdles and they have not moved as much as the political leaders in region. Now, Modi, who has a record of stimulating bureaucracy and getting work done in Gujarat, if he does it in the center, we are going to see lots of implementation of agreements more effectively with Brazil. So the bilateral relations will become stronger. And secondly, he would inspire Dilma to be a little more ambitious and take her along in the aspirations of the two countries to get their fair share in the global power equation. And it applies to IBSA and BRICS also. In the case of IBSA, we had this sad situation of all the chiefs of all the three countries not showing initiative. Dilma and the South African president and the Indian Prime Minister, all three of them, the current ones, they did not give dynamism which was envisioned by the founders. So that needs a little push. Now, when if Narendra Modi becomes Prime Minister, definitely he would rejuvenate IPSA and raise its profile. And the same with BRICS. Now, BRIC originally was converted into BRICS by the Chinese because they wanted to dilute IPSA by bringing in South Africa, although they did not qualify on the merits for the usual criteria which was used by Jim O'Neill for BRIC. But even within BRICS, the agenda is driven generally by the Chinese. And now, of course, we are going to have the Russian. So we need stronger voice of India to make it more relevant, more effective and meaningful in global affairs. And that is where Narendra Modi can contribute. And lastly, on the multilateralism. Now, Brazil believes in multilateralism and so are we. But this got, this was not pushed effectively by the Dilma government. She was busy with her own internal affairs, and our Prime Minister, he handled multilateral partners in the same way as he handled the Indian coalition partners, by doing nothing, by not driving. So now the new Prime Minister could, by his activism, could inspire Brazil, South Africa and others to be more proactive and reduce this unilateralism being practiced by United States and Western powers, who have ruined the countries like Iraq, Syria, Libya, and now they are trying to destabilize Ukraine. Now, if BRICS, IPSA, and through them, if India and Brazil are more active in international fora, I think we can minimize the damage by these Western powers.
Can I add something to what Ambassador Viswanathan said?
Yes, of course.
Okay. No, I think he's really correct when he mentions that Dilma is not very ambitious in terms of foreign policy, and we all hope that Narendra Modi, with a higher profile, is going to engage more our president to the kind of presidential diplomacy that Lula used to do. We know that's not exactly her thing, but we think this would be very important, specifically in July during the BRICS summit. There are several important issues that are going to come up. For instance, the positioning of the BRICS towards the Crimea issue. That's going to be very important. That's if they maintain their common position of not interfering with Russia's actions and not positioning themselves the same as what Western powers are doing. So I really hope Ambassador Viswanathan is right and Narendra Modi manages to engage our president a little bit more in foreign policy.
Just to give you an example, for example, Brazil took initiative on this global internet governance issue. They organized the Net Mundial. While there were a lot of expectations, ultimately the outcome was not as much because Brazil was left alone. If there was an India equally active and interested in that forum, the outcome could have been more favorable for the emerging countries.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Great. Thank you very much. I think that's all the time we have for now. Thank you for joining us.
Can I add one word about Latin America? And
yes, Ambassador.
You see, Latin America was seen as the backyard of the United States in the past. But in the last couple of decades, Latin America is pursuing a more independent and assertive foreign policy. And so this new Latin America, which is assertive, they would like to see a robust and strong Indian Prime Minister who could add to the weight and help this cause of multilateralism. That is why not only Brazil, the whole of Latin America would be happy with a person like Narendra Modi as the Prime Minister who would who would fight for the causes of the South more strongly and effectively. Thank you.
Good.
Thank
Patricia,
you.
do you agree with the ambassador?
I'm sorry?
Do you agree with the ambassador?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I do agree with the ambassador. We no longer have this backyard, U.S. backyard mentality, and mainly Brazil. Mexico is still very much linked to the U.S., but Brazil is trying to pursue this independent foreign policy, and it would be really, really fantastic if possible, or Mr. Narendra Modi, the possible next Prime Minister, would engage with Brazil in a more independent foreign policy.
Great. Thank you, Ambassador, and thank you, Patricia, for giving us an overview of both Brazil and also Latin America of the Indian elections. And we look forward to having more such events after the new administration comes in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mari. Thank you.
Obrigado.
Obrigada.
Obrigado.